we're going to get rolling. Let's do this. So what better way to begin a meetup that was missing plates and cups and pizza for a while. Still missing plates, but they're coming. I made sure they're coming, even if we've already eaten all the pizza. But to ask for help. So Sam's the lead organizer. I do this as well. Josh has been helping out as well. We're trying to grow the team and ask for help with doing stuff here for the meetup, planning ahead, working with the venue, working with sponsors, all of that. Even doing stuff with the website, which I'm going to show you in a moment. So if you're ever interested in getting involved, working with us, you don't have to be a people person. You don't have to be an experienced developer. We will work with you and be happy for it. So please talk to me or Sam or Josh if you know Josh. We'll introduce him when we get a chance. He's always running to get in the door. But with that, thank you all for coming. It is a little bit cold out, just a little bit. And yet you are all here. You are the brave ones. You are the committed ones. And we always appreciate when people come out when it's freezing cold and all that. So with that, yeah, there's plenty of pizza. Empanadas, as we mentioned. Thank you, Ingenious, for that. Actually, thank you, Ingenious. They're the sponsor. I'm getting ahead of myself, but Ingenious sponsored the food for tonight, including the empanadas and all that. It's not their fault that we're missing plates. It's definitely not their fault. We're really happy to have them. Yeah, the bathrooms are right there if you've never been here before. And yeah, so we were sponsored tonight by Ingenious, as I said. Also by Turing as a venue. They're awesome. Great to be here, as always. Granicus paid our meetup fees, so thank you to Granicus as well. I wanted to ask if Gabriel from Ingenious could give us a quick word about why you're here and why you sponsored meetup.
All right. Okay, I'm Gabriel. You're going to meet a lot of Gabriels today, so I'm the third one, plus the two speakers. Thank you for coming today. I'm the head of Ingenious. It's a product design firm, but we also have a strong technical team. That's why we are today here. We have, our team is distributed in 5 countries. We are based in Uruguay, in South America, and empanadas are typically from our place. But yeah, anyone Argentinian will disagree with that. And basically, wherever we go, here in the States, we are various in several places too. Wherever we go, we support the communities for developers because our technical team is everything for us. So we sponsor product design and technology meetups, especially on the JavaScript ecosystem. We also sponsor big events like JSConf, JS Day, things in South America, in several countries, and in the places we have offices where we host this type of events too. So, long story short, we are actually moving to Denver. This year we're opening an office here in Denver. We've been playing in this community for 3 or 4 years already. We have doing business here with large players mostly in Konkle. But now we are really committed, saying yes to this lovely place. And that means also that we really want to be very present on pushing the communities. And that takes the shape of empowering the movements already are here. Also bringing people from Denver to other cities and countries where we also help communities so we can all learn together from diversity and also improve by being international speakers and stuff like that. So really it's a pleasure for me to be here. It's the first time we sponsor this event, so I wanted to be here personally. And actually, I'm here with Gabriel Chertok, as we all call him. He's our COO, an amazing guy, and highly skilled developer. And very famous too. So anyway, just that's it. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So before I forget, I want to show everyone the new website, which Josh, please stand up, Josh. This is Josh. He's our newest organizer. He's been doing a terrific job helping out the last few meetups, and he put this. I asked him. I told him this. I said, I really want to get our website up for this meetup for a couple reasons. One, because Gabriel is going to give a talk on Gatsby, and I wanted to build it on Gatsby, but I didn't have any time, so I threw it at Josh, and Josh just did it. So he built our website over the weekend, and he put together just a great site that is going to be up on our public GitHub very soon, so everyone can contribute. There's lots to do. Like we have like some empty pages. But one page that we care very much about that I want to introduce tonight is our code of conduct. So we feel very strongly that this is something that we should have. We should hold ourselves to a code. We should make sure that we know that everyone knows that we value having a welcoming community, that we respect each other, that we treat each other well. So I would encourage you to read this, send some pull requests for any of the typos and such, and help us make it better. But more than anything, just know that this is something that we should all follow. And if you ever have a problem or a question or want to bring it up to Josh, Sam, or myself, please do. We want to do our best to make sure that we have a very positive environment, that everyone feels welcome, that we have a diverse and inclusive group, that this community is here for everyone. So I have seen just amazing character for everyone. This wasn't sparked by any problems. This was really something that we wanted to get ahead of as a pop crew meetup to say, hey, we want to make sure that we're doing the right thing, that we're covering all the bases, that we're doing the best job we can to make this a great community. So thank you all for making that possible and contributing to that. So with that, who is hiring? And I'd like to get on the mic. So if you're hiring, please let Sam know and he'll bring you the mic. Perfect.
Sam told me that I couldn't write it on the board unless I was willing to talk. So. Hi, I'm Kevin McKernan. I'm a senior web engineer at 303 Software. We are just on the south end of downtown by the Art Museum. Currently hiring mid leaning more senior. I didn't put senior on the board because I want you to come talk to me. React and Node kind of full stack developers. Kind of product agency is how I usually describe what we do. So client services, but we're not just doing websites. We're doing more kind of web apps. We've got a couple mobile guys. Yeah, so if you're looking for a job, even if you're not sure, if you'd be a good fit or anything, please come talk to me. Again, I'm Kevin McKernan. So thanks.
Thank you. Who else?
Sam, before me, I'm Katie.
Will, can we use that one?
We lost it. Yeah. Here you go.
Hello. Okay. I'm Katie. I'm a lead front-end developer at ReasonReact. We're a blockchain agency-specific blockchain here. We work very closely with Salt and other clients like Chertok, people like that. We are hiring developers. We believe we're hiring a couple product people as well. So if you're interested, you can come talk to me. I'm not really that hiring person, but I can just put you in the right direction.
Anybody else?
Well, I will tell the company I work for then. As Katie mentioned, not only is ideas by nature hiring, but Saltline, the company I work for, is also looking for JavaScript developers. So if you're interested in blockchain and interested in working with JavaScript, whether that be Node or React, please come talk to me. I'm happy to answer any questions there. So that's it.
Awesome. So we'll get right to the talks. First up, we have Gabriel Konkle, who's going to talk about GatsbyJS, pros, cons, and in between. I think Gatsby is amazing, and there's some really cool things happening with it. And after that, please stick around for Chertok. He came all the way from Uruguay, and I'm really glad we've had everyone come out to welcome him. He's going to talk about Reason. So with that, Gabriel.
Sorry, my problem is a problem, so I'm going to give you this. Okay, that's fine. I'll put it right here.
Hello. I am a notoriously soft speaker, so I'll try to speak up best I can. Let me see if I can do this. Oh, it's going to be I don't want you guys to see my notes. Yeah, let me see if I can switch to where it's doing dual display instead of mirror. Okay. Okay. Thanks for bearing with me. It's been a while since I messed with slides.com, so please make sure. Yay, it's working. Okay, GatsbyJS. So I work at Ecliptic. It's a small consultancy, just me and my brother. We do projects in React and React Native for various clients. And one client, Mike Johnston, who's campaigning for governor of Colorado, their team approached us to make a website and then also a follow-up web app, which we're actually in the process of making, for the campaign. And they kind of tasked us with a few things. So first, we needed to make the homepage, which would have a custom content management system and static pages, for search engine optimization. And then what we're doing right now is building out a dashboard app for them that's going to be dynamic and interactive. So we're basically building two products, and had to figure out, okay, how do we want to do this? Do we want to do two separate projects, two separate repos, all that kind of thing? What we decided, and it's on a public sector budget, which you have to pinch some pennies in that realm. So what we decided to do, first off, we decided to use headless WordPress. So if you're not familiar, this is WordPress, like we all know and maybe love or hate, but it has basically there's no front-end portion of it. It's just handling the content, the server stuff. So it's you can actually make custom post types. So like you can make your own event posts and slides posts and stuff like that, and it'll automatically generate a REST API for you that you can access with that data. And then we also decided on the whole point of this talk, GatsbyJS, which it's got some cool things about it. It automatically out of the box does server-side rendering. You get your static content for SEO. And there's actually also a WordPress plugin to where you can actually access the REST API with GraphQL, which is, I'm not really a back-end guy, and so GraphQL is the closest I get, and it's really simple, really easy to write queries and access them, so that was a big plus. And then also with Gatsby, you build it in React, and it spits out your HTML, CSS files, and your script tags and all that. So it makes it really easy. So yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about what we did. real quick before I get into Gatsby, I did want to mention about the headless WordPress. I know some people have been talking about it, and it's kind of interesting. It's also a little bit complicated to set up. There's a lot of clicking through fields and clicking through menus and menus and menus and refreshing and all that stuff to finally get all your custom field types set up. But not terrible. It's a little unintuitive, especially on the client side. As you can see, there's custom post types like we have the events page and policies and stuff like that, but it's mixed in with stuff that WordPress does default, like comments and pages and other stuff like that that we never even use, and so there's no way to hide the default stuff. So the client sees that when they're in the admin. So it's kind of quirky, but like I mentioned, we're doing a public sector thing, so we wanted something that would be low cost, and there's nothing more low cost than food. And, well, you have to host it yourself, but it's pretty powerful once you work out those kinks. Enough about WordPress. Let's get on to the good, the bad, and the ugly of GatsbyJS. Yeah, so the good. We'll start off on a high note. There's some cool server stuff about Gatsby. It, handles all the stuff, caching efficiently, tuning performance, and all that servery stuff that I'm not super familiar with, but my brother is a whiz at. We didn't even have to worry about it because using Gatsby, it takes care of it. And then it also has the server-side rendering built in. More on that later because that really threw me for a loop. Another good thing about it is security. It's kind of security, like I say, through obscurity. If someone got a hold of all the static files that we put out for Mike Johnston from Colorado, and they were digging through everything, they would see no reference whatsoever to WordPress at all. So any bad actors out there would have really no idea where to look for where all the admin stuff is and where all that's coming from. Now that said, I have just told a whole room full of developers where to find it, so don't do anything bad, okay? So that's not really an excuse to just throw security to the wind. They won't know where to find stuff. You still have to do cores and stuff like that, but it's just an added layer that helps. Another good thing about Gatsby is the browser resources. So server-side rendering frees up the browser because it takes care of the first render ahead of time on the server. Gatsby also has this thing called Gatsby Link. It's a plugin, and you can use it to link all your pages together. And as you can see, once your website loads up, flipping through pages is instantaneous because it loads all that stuff in the background once you do that initial render. So it's pretty nifty. I liked it. Another good thing that I mentioned before, it's got good search engine optimization. Since search engine bots don't have to really parse through all that JavaScript to get your website's content, it's all statically there. They can index it more easily, so that's nice. Another thing that was really awesome that I hadn't encountered before is a thing called graphical. Are any of you familiar with GraphQL? I know I mentioned it. Cool. So if you're a front-end dev like me, GraphQL is a really kind of dip your toes into a little bit of database back-end code stuff. So it's a nice tool to do some easy queries and stuff like that. Graphical is a in-browser IDE for testing out queries. So here's a picture of it. It's basically write in your query and it'll spit out some data. So that's really helpful, so you don't have to actually write the query in your code, run, build your dev server and all that just to see, hey, did my query work? You can just see it right away. Another cool thing that Graphical does is it'll let you know what's actually on your endpoints. It'll suggest things. Oh, hey, you have an endpoint that's limit. You should type that. So that's really easy. You don't have to dig through documentation to find out what are my endpoints for my API, what the heck. So I like that because it saves time. And then also it'll tell you if you're wrong, which I am wrong all the time, just ask my wife. So it's really helpful for it to say, hey, you put a string instead of an integer. You're done. Change it quick. And yeah, I got all these images from Clay Alsop's blog post on Medium about Graphical. So if you want to learn more about it, just search for Clay Alsop Graphical. He's got a good post about it. Another thing that I really liked was the CLI that Gatsby uses to build out the repo. Comes out of the box with the hot reloading, Webpack config, Graphical like I mentioned, and then some other stuff as well. And I'm typically kind of a customization nut. If you're familiar with Create React App, I always eject every time. I never leave it alone. I just tinker, and I like to do little Webpack plugins and stuff like that. Even though I'm not super knowledgeable, so I usually just shoot myself in the foot by messing too much with the Webpack config. But interestingly, with Gatsby, the way they have everything set up, I never felt the need to try to break in there and change things with the Webpack or whatever. Yeah, there's a lot of Gatsby plugins, I think, that stretch the functionality. That maybe is why I didn't really feel the need, but yeah, I feel like their CLI and what it builds out had everything I needed along with the plugins. Okay, now we get to the interesting stuff. The bad. I wouldn't call this bad, but maybe just kind of meh stuff I didn't love. The GraphQL implementation. Now this is not graphical like I mentioned, but it's the GraphQL stuff. It can be pretty magical. What I mean by that is they're not explicit with what's going on. So here, let me, wait, I didn't include a code example, I'm sorry. But if you write a query for GraphQL in the same file as a page, layout, or template component, the data automatically gets passed down to the component as a prop. So you get a data prop. And you're like, hey, there's my data from the query. That's great. You don't even have to bring in Apollo. You don't have to bring in any kind of GraphQL client. It just magically takes care of that in the effort. But if you write that same query in a different component that's not a page component or a layout component or one of those other special Gatsby components, the query does not pass anything to your props. It just sits there and never gets picked up by Gatsby. And so that's confusing. You're like, hey, I wrote this query. I'm trying to access this data, and I'm getting errors. Why? And then you realize, okay, this isn't a page component. I should clarify, Gatsby has these special directories. So there's page with all your pages, and there'll be page components. And then the layouts and templates are also a special Gatsby thing. Yeah, that's where the magic happens. So it's a little undescriptive. You don't know why something's not working. The other thing I didn't exactly love, this is not necessarily a thing on Gatsby itself, but one of the plugins, Gatsby Image, not magical enough. It was a little bit too crazy complicated. Basically, you have to write a query, just like you would for a GraphQL query, to grab your image from wherever it is, and use a special plugin to manipulate the image with different resolutions, and there's all kinds of other ways you can manipulate it, optimize it. But I am generally a simplicity-loving person, and that was a little too crazy for me just to optimize an image. Yeah, I still hate writing those queries for images. It's like, why? Yeah. But I mean, it works, and it works really well. It's got good functionality, does blur up and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah. Now on to the ugly. I will admit, this section is actually just ugly because I didn't understand what was going on. So it's more ugly on me than Gatsby, but I'll explain. And it's server-side rendering. I had never really messed with server-side rendering before. All of my stuff is rendered right there in the browser every time. And if you're like me, you've never worked with server-side rendering before, you know, you're in for a real treat. And yeah, not really. I'll show you some examples. Like this is my header, and it's like, wait, where'd my link go? Why does the logo look like that? What's with the white background? What's going on? I had a contact form. The zip code was way out there. I don't know why. Also, another header thing, there's just links disappearing, changing colors. I had a donate form that just rendered twice for no explicit reason. And it was all because of server-side rendering and me not quite understanding what was going on behind the scenes. And that's really the key to getting over that hump of Gatsby, is understanding how it handles the server-side rendering. So I'll just give a brief explanation in case you guys go home and try to make a Gatsby site tonight. The HTML and CSS files are built on the server with tags indicating where to insert the React components. And that all happens on the server. Once it actually puts it into the browser, you know, the component did mount lifecycle method is finally called. But what threw me for a loop is component will mount is called on the server, but not the browser for the initial render. So I was trying to get my layout all nice, you know, finding out what the client height was, sending out some Redux actions right on component will mount, and nothing was working. I was getting all those like crazy, what's going on? And so that's what bit me in the butt. And this was my reaction to that. So yeah, if you do end up working on with Gatsby or any other project doing server-side rendering, just keep in mind the craziness that can happen when it renders on the server first. Some closing thoughts for you guys. The CMS with the progressive web app, it's pretty awesome. Being able to serve a beautiful website or a web app with the client, being able to customize the copy images, the colors at their whim with the CMS, but also get the static files for the great, search engine optimization. It's something our client loved, and they're already referring us to other potential clients. So if you walk away with something from this talk, even if it's not an interest in Gatsby, you might consider something, using a custom CMS like Headless WordPress, or there's a lot of others out there. Actually, that's my next parting thought: is would we do Headless WordPress again? Maybe. It's actually pretty powerful, but it does feel a little bit hacked together. It's hard to necessarily get set up well. We're taking a look at Contentful, which a lot of people using Gatsby are using Contentful. There's a good plugin system there for it. But there's something about the familiarity of WordPress. A lot of clients will ask for that. Oh, is the CMS through WordPress? They might already have content on WordPress, or there's just like that familiarity. They know WordPress. They've seen it for years. We all have. So we're kind of back and forth about whether we do have this WordPress again. But we're definitely going to go with Gatsby again. It was a really good experience, server-side rendering aside. We really enjoyed it, and it's pretty powerful. I will also just mention, it's not just for static content. We are building the dynamic dashboard application for the client right there in the same repo using Gatsby. So you can do dynamic pages and static pages side by side in the same repo. We got React Router in there. And it works out really well. And the benefits are, you can reuse the same components and keep them all updated in one repo. And then it's really simple deploy process. So yeah, that's kind of my what's what with GatsbyJS. I enjoyed it. This is my info. I'm one of the Gabriels tonight. I guess I should write up there as well. Yeah, I'll do that afterwards. If you wanted to check out the site that we made, it's MikeJohnsonForColorado.com. I'm not campaigning for him, I'm just campaigning for us because I'm really proud of the work we did. So, politics aside, you should check it out. And yeah, any people have any questions?
So, because it's still on WordPress, how easy is this? I made a WordPress site for mom and that was WordPress. She immediately broke it by setting up stuff on WordPress. Using WordPress, are you able to limit the WordPress to ensure that we don't mess that up?
Yeah, so for those who didn't hear, the question was, he used an example, he made a WordPress site for his mom, and then his mom went into the admin stuff, right, and then messed everything up trying to customize it. With the users on WordPress, you can actually limit what a user can do, what they can update. So with your admin privileges, you can go and make the user, okay, they can only update these things. So there is ability to limit what they can do so they don't break everything. So yeah, there's some protections there. Anyone else? Thank you. Cool. So while Chertok sets up, I want to plug something. So Scott Zielinski, everyone knows him, but that's Scott. One of our own here in Denver has a podcast with, how do you say Wes's last name? Boss. Wes Boss. Well, I have heard of for Scott, but Scott's done a YouTube channel. Level Up Tutorials, that's what it was. Level Up Tutorials, and he has a podcast which I want to mention, syntax.fm. I discovered it recently because somebody else mentioned, I think Sam mentioned it to me back in November. I started listening to it. So I just want to plug that and share, something that was from one of our locals. And we're always looking for talks. So if you're ever interested in talking, whether you're an experienced speaker or a first-time speaker, whether you want to give a 5-minute talk or a 20-minute talk, talk to Sam, myself, or Josh. Happy to work with you, figure out what's a good topic, all that. Sam, what do we have next month that we know about?
So, one of our speakers for next month is actually here, Katie Foster. She has committed to giving a talk on accessibility, and now she's locked in. So, because I just announced it. So, she will for sure be giving a talk, and then we do have some other openings in April and beyond. So, if you're interested in talking, yeah, like I said, come find us. We're more than happy to get first-time speakers, experienced speakers, and everything in between. So, yeah.
Thank you. Sorry about that. We have a Bentley. Bentley's still a thing? Is it? I don't know. It's still a thing. We're using Bentley. Still being reactive.
What? Yeah, flop sideways to your screen's all warm.
I have flex on.
Yeah.
That's good. Can you see it? So let me check if this is working.
The other talk is Raheem. Raheem's giving a talk. When did I make you give a talk on?
Does it work?
Excellent. Expo. So if you ever do anything with React Native, you've probably heard of Expo. If you haven't done anything with React Native, such as myself, you've only recently learned about Expo. Because we're each going to give a talk out next month. That's going to be awesome too. So we have both our speakers right there. Thank you both. I'm very excited for next month.
I
But-
found my first title.
Oh, you
I
found your first
copied
thing.
Gabriel's presentation and it says his name.
Well, here we go. Thank you, Chertok, for coming all the way from Uruguay. I mean, he loves coming to Denver. He's always visiting. And they're obviously setting up an office here in Denver, which is always great to have another company that supports the community. Thank you again for sponsoring and for telling us about yourselves. Welcome to the community. Give it up for Chertok.
Thank you. How are you doing?
Very good.
Okay. Well, my name is not Gabriel Camargo, which is the other Gabriel. I'm the third. This is Chertok, but this Gabriel, but everybody calls me Chertok, so you can call me Chertok, the same thing. So, and I was passionate. Well, I don't do coding that much anymore. I do boring stuff like organizing people who code, which is much boring than actually doing Reason. But I got caught by Reason and this language, so I wanted to share a little bit of what I learned with everybody. So Will asked me to put a title, so I just put a nice title, but then I thought, yeah, blah blah Reason, because I guess it's coming in, right? People want to learn about this, and I thought, okay, well, I'll put Reason there, people will go, right? Like I will put GraphQL there, people will go, or blockchain. It's the same thing. I work for Ingenious. We talked about a little bit about Ingenious, but if you wanna, we're a product design agency. If you wanna do know more, talk with Kevin. He lives here. I come kind of often, but and Gabriel too. But Kevin actually lives here, so it's easier to get with him. So he's here. So enough of this thing. So okay. So I started to think, what should I say about Reason, because it's a new programming language, as you may know or may not. So I'd say, okay, well, let's go with the typical approach, which is I tell you a little bit about the history of this, and then I tell you about the types, and how you do functions, and how you sum down like both numbers, or how you do pattern matching, how you do ifs and such. And I say, well, no, people will get very boring about looking at that. So I say, I will try to do this without messing with the actual syntax of the language, which will be very complicated. So you can fall asleep or try to keep it up with me, but I guess you will do the first. So, okay, I run technology at Ingenious by day, and I'm a soccer player by night. So if there is a soccer match here in Denver, you can invite me. I will be here until Saturday. So I didn't brought anything, but I can buy some stuff and actually play. I play kind of good, I think. So those are my social networks are really there as well. And we are already looking at Reason, and I think if you are a JavaScript developer, it seems like familiar, maybe. So here. So what's Reason? And most important than what's Reason, why should I care, right? So, okay, let's start with this, and this is boring. It's a statically typed functional programming language that is actually not a language, but a new syntax for an old language named OCaml. So when you say this, when I say like functional programming language, I know what you're thinking is like, okay, this is super complicated. I will start annotating things like Haskell or pure script. I will need to learn a bunch of syntax to actually do like a simple web application. Hopefully this is not the case, and I won't talk about that in this talk, because actually I don't know much about functional programming. So I got covered with Reason because for a simple thing, it makes easy to actually get started with functional programming techniques, and it doesn't force you to actually do functional programming all the time, right? It has the correct amount of escape hatches to let you actually go there, do some things, like the functional things we know and love from React, maybe, just having a function that is a component, and then returning that JSX, and not doing the things that we actually are requested to do in PureScript or in Haskell or in ClojureScript or whatever. Like it is, okay, I need to write a promise to get something from the backend. Well, that's impossible, right? We can add two numbers, But requesting things from the server, no, that's a whole different story, right? You need to write a monad and stuff like that. I don't know what a monad is, so I'm fine, right? So I think it has the right amount of balance between one thing one can say, like TypeScript, Flow. Somebody did TypeScript or Flow here. No, nobody. Yeah, here. Yeah. So, and on the other side, you have like PureScript, ClojureScript. So I guess right in between, it's got the cool thing, I guess, about functional programming languages, and not the bad things about the, not bad things, but the steep the learning curve that you may need, right? I will talk briefly about the history. So I mentioned like Reason is not an actual new language, but actually is a new syntax for an old language called OCaml. So either Reason syntax or OCaml syntax both compile to the OCaml AST, the Alta syntax tree, and those are actually getting interpreted, or actually not interpreted, it's not the correct word, actually being run by either bytecode, native code, or there is a tool that's a sister project of the Reason project that's called BuckleScript. And what BuckleScript does is it takes the OCaml AST and transforms it to JavaScript. And it does a couple of things you don't want to know, which actually use the Clojure compiler to actually get fast JavaScript. And it's mostly readable code, so you can read it because it's readable. But no, actually, it's not like a generated crap that gets, I'll say crap, oh, sorry. But it's actually a thing you can, the if and the modules and the files, they're still there, even though you have like source map and all that. So it's a new syntax, it's right. I didn't invent this. This is from a book from Alex Rauschmacher. I probably pronounced that very badly, but yeah. But that's he has an online book. You can read it online or you can buy it. You should buy it because this guy is actually spreading a lot of love for Reason, and it's a great resource. And I learned a lot by reading their articles, and then finally using this chart to illustrate a little bit more. So let's talk about what I just said. So that is ReasonML code. So it uses LED, and if you use ES6, you know what LED is. That's similar to var, but it got the block scope, not the function scope, which was kind of weird. And the JavaScript questions you get in an interview, right? Yeah. What is the value of this? Yeah, I know that. That's the only one I know from nothing. But it actually is really similar to JavaScript, and this is on purpose because Reason is built by Facebook. They are doing Messenger.com website. 50% of the code is Reason. So the intention of them was, okay, we're using OCaml. They use OCaml to build the Flow parser, actually. So they are heavily invested in OCaml. So how can we make OCaml approachable to everybody? And they say, okay, let's do it in JavaScript, right? Let's put JavaScript in something. So if you want, how do you want to make money now? You put a blockchain, and how do you want people like actually use your software? It like should be equal to JavaScript, and now we're on this, right? But the cool thing is, you can see here the code that generates, and you can see there BuckleScript is not Reason that's actually doing anything. It's just the syntax being picked up, and BuckleScript gets the AST from OCaml. Actually output this, which is not very bad, like it's readable, you can read it. The only difference you may notice is the ++ sign. And one thing to say, Reason till the day does not have what in Haskell you call type classes or overloading of your operands. So you need an operand like to say, I'm concatenating this string, and it can be the plus because the plus actually adds to integers. And if you want to add to floats, then you need to do plus period. It's kind of funky, but it will get there with the OCaml type system, and it's not that bad, right? It's just to learn a few things more. Okay. So, but the cool thing is, I'll say it is a statically typed language, and I haven't wrote any types there. So what's the catch? How do you make this statically typed and a sound type system like Reason has when you don't write any types? Like, well, magic. No, well, it's not magic. It's like type inference, and in this case, it's OCaml type inference. It's not Reason. It's not doing anything, right? it's just generating the AST to actually feed OCaml. And the OCaml tool and compiler can know, okay, this is a string because I'm passing a string down there, and because I'm using ++, that is specifically for concatenating strings, right? So if I pass 1, I get this expression has type int, but an expression was expected of type string, which is what you may ask for a compiler and a type checker, right? So it's pretty neat. I haven't had to annotate the actual code. And you have like some standard library, we'll talk about that in a bit, that actually lets you convert string of int, and you just put whatever, and you get, you feed an int, and you get the string. The good thing about this, like a nice trick, is always like the thing you want to convert to the thing you want to input, so you can string of float, string of whatever, or float of int. Yeah, you get the idea. It's nice API to convert things. Okay, the other cool thing about Reason, and that's why I think this is going to succeed, or at least it's going to be nicer than Elm or PureScript. Maybe not that ClojureScript because they have the same type of doing thing. You can interrupt with the JavaScript global variables and global methods. So here I'm using an expression that is, I'm telling BackleScript, hey, BackleScript, listen to me. When you go through this code, you should know that there is a set timeout, which is defined at the window level, I guess, that will have two arguments. One is a unit in Reason means nil, nothing, like something to say nothing comes out of this, right? We receive a function that receives nothing and returns nothing, and an integer, which is the signature of the set timeout, and you will return a float, right? And you put a set timeout, and with that, you can use set timeout, you can type it, the compiler still checks everything it needs to check, but it's using the set timeout from the global scope from Windows. And this is cool because the interrupt you get with Reason, I guess it's much better than the other interrupts you get with other functional programming languages out there. So this allows you to write bindings, any kind of bindings, to React components, to other Node modules out there, and just by writing the binding and importing the thing, you can actually use it. So this is a little bit better than actually need to develop everything in the language you're trying to use. How many of you used Elm or ClojureScript? Yeah, you like it? You're sold on it? Well, the talk is not for you. I like Elm in a way, but I feel like I do JavaScript, I'm not smart enough to actually understand Haskell. So yeah, that's me. So okay, and this, you see this is the code, and you see like those small annotations, like 0 is a unit, so you can tell what's doing the BackleScript, right? It's generating code but with some hints. So okay, I think by the time if you are not like fall asleep, you're saying, yeah, okay, I'm sold, I want to use it. It's new, it's shiny, I want it, right? But I know you want it, but can you actually use it to build web applications? Because we are at React meetup and we build, I guess, web applications, right? So I thought that by myself and say, okay, let's go to the Reason website and see what are the examples. And I just found really usable things like do a tree sum or a factorial or doing Hanoi towers. And I thought like, well, maybe this is not the language I was expecting for. I was expecting to create a web application, and the examples I see is like, the only thing I think is useful is like JSON and string interpolation. All the others is like, for me, it's, you know, it's rocket science. I don't know how to do Hanoi towers. Like, never will be, and that's okay, right? So I see this and I feel a little bit discouraged, to be honest. Like, okay, it's like, I said to me, well, not another toy language. Like, I don't want to learn something to add two numbers or to sum B3, because I don't do those. It's like, it's super important, you should study that, but like, for my everyday work, I actually don't do Hanoi towers. I don't apply any of that. Maybe the tools I use, they apply that, but for my everyday work, I don't apply them. So I started to feel, okay, how are we going to do a real web application? And then I started to think what reality is like. And reality does not exist until you measure it, or you know the theory. Nobody understands it, but that's simple to understand. Everything is a possibility until you actually go and look there, and now it's something happening. So what's a real application? That's a real thing. What is a real thing we're doing every day? So I say, okay, I will grab another application that I know that it's real because we've been developing it for like 4 months, 5, and see the package JSON. That's a real application. Like it has like gazillion of dependencies, right? I need to do the similar things with Reason. Otherwise, it's just a language that it won't help me in my daily job. It's a great language maybe, but it won't help me like the help I need in my daily job. So I wrote like, this is a client from here, from Denver, from Colorado, and it's a Validivo. And this is the package JSON. I reformatted a little bit to actually separate it in little chunks, but you can see there are a lot of things. So if Reason can compete with these things, then it's not for me or not for my everyday job, and I will try to look for something different, right? So let's say this is a real application. Perfect. So I separated it and said, oh, the first one I like polyfills. I still need those, even if I Reason, right? I'm not trusting browser developers, so I need to bring my own polyfills. So all those things have something in common. Those are standard libraries. Like Lodash, it's a standard library. It's a replacement for things we don't have, or for things that we don't like the standard library, how the way they happen. Moment, it's like, yeah, I want to manage like dates. Well, not going too far with the date object from JavaScript, so I need moment, and then it's using moment time zone if you're working in more than one time zone, which is probably the case always. And then I need immutable, because why not? I like immutable data structures, and we don't have them in JavaScript, so I need to bring my own immutable JS library. And recompose, which I put in there just because it gives you a lot of functional things that maybe Lodash also gives you, but I use it in this type of way instead of the React hierarchical component there. So I need a standard library, so I need to open a link, so 1 second. To pretend I'm still talking. And this should be working, and nobody can see anything here. Okay. So I said, okay, I need a standard library. Where are my notes? Come on. They flew away. But okay, so I need a standard library. I say, okay, immutability, those type of things, I want it from my language, right? I had to bring my own idioms to actually polyfill the things the JavaScript ecosystem didn't have. So I added, this is the try thing in the Reason website. So as you can see, there is kind of a standard library and immutable, like the structures are immutable by default. So you can filter list and get a new list. The team's list doesn't get affected. And you can actually do something even cooler, which is, I don't know if you noticed this against this. So recompose and Lodash has like this currying method. You can curry a function. I don't know if you know the concept, but it's really easy. You have a list of arguments for a function, and you pass less arguments. You get a function that if you call it with the remaining arguments, it will do whatever you need, right? In JavaScript, this is not possible. Well, it's possible, but you need to like have a library or actually do it yourself with call and apply. And Reason does this by default. So the filter has 2 methods. One is a function that should return a Boolean, and the other is the list where you want to filter. Or you can do it like this, or you can do it like this. Like you can call the filter and then call it with the remaining arguments, and then it's actually the same result, right? And it has a nice idiom here, which is nice. You can, this operator is very, they're rooting for actually having in JavaScript land. So this thing is like, it's like calling it with the last parameter here, but up front. And it's very good to actually chain your code. So you have you have a little more options that you had in JavaScript, right? So that's a cool thing. At least it was a cool thing for me. So that standard library is, I will say, it's super covered because Reason has its own problems. I cannot. Come on. Yeah. So it has its own problems, but anyway, we still have this, which is much better than having JavaScript all by themselves. I need my presenter. No. Never do this. Okay, let's continue without it. Let's trust my memory. Come on. I'm going to show code, so it's not important. Well, I need a framework, a library. Hopefully, Reason has a library called ReasonReact, and one of the creators of React is actually working on the ReasonReact version. So you actually have a library and have something you can use. So on that side, we are covered. I wanted to show like a little bit of code, if you like. Are you already asleep, or can continue for a couple of minutes more? Yeah, no rush. And nobody's going to see anything. So, it's not important. This part is not important, but the cool thing is you can have a React component. When I found it, simple Buddha, perfect. So, how do you do it? First things first, when you have a module, it's a way of having a file within a file. Every file in Reason is a module, so, and everything you have, every function, every value gets automatically exported to the outside world. So in this case, I have a simple Budon is the name of the file that is his own module, and I'm having a module inside. It's called Budon, just to actually have like two components, one outer component and one inner. And the things I'm doing it's pretty easy. ReasonReact has this stated component. This is ReasonReact module as well. Has this stated component function, and you pass in the display name on React. You know, we still use that, or React picks one up for app. Gives you like the simple Buddha thing, and then you have a function that receives an argument which I am ignoring, and you do that with underscore. It's a common idiom for some languages. And then you return something similar to a JSON object, which is a record in Reason. And you spread, like you spread in JavaScript, we love it, you spread the component you got from the stated component function, and you override the functions you need. In this case, because it's a stated component function, I can only override the render one. And again, because I have no object, because it's functional programming, but even though Reason and OCaml can have object, in this case, ReasonReact chooses not to use them. So you get the self, which I am also ignoring, but you can do the thing with self. But in this case, I'm just creating a Budon, and the Budon is simple enough. It follows the same pattern, and has this, what is this about? Well, okay, it's a little bit complex, because Reason has everything typed. You also need to have typed the children of your component, right? You cannot pass whatever, like a JSX. You pass a string, it's okay. You pass an array of JSX documents, and that's perfectly fine. So in Reason, we need to transform whatever we have to a React element. And if you go there, the function is actually doing that. It's taking the content, which is using the pipe operand on the left, and it's passing it to React element. So I'm just grabbing whatever goes in content, which is here. You get it? Hello, number. And it's actually creating an element of it. It's the only drawback, and you find yourself doing this all the time, right? There is a small tool for actually easing this out, but it's not that hard, right? It's like you can write regular React. It's fairly well-known idiom. One thing I didn't tell you, because we didn't spoke about like the syntax a bit. In Reason, you can have like positional parameters, like these children, or you can have label arguments, which is you have the, how do you call it, like the tilde? Okay, we call it tilde different thing. That's why you have like the tilde here, and that translates to a problem, right? So let's do this. This is great.
I will yell. Should I, yeah?
Yeah.
Bigger?
You're loud.
That's okay? Okay, I will ditch the microphone, sorry. This is better. So, one thing that's cool, I can come here and say, yeah, well, I'm not passing any content today. Not a nice Boolean day. And because Reason does compiling and compiles the thing, it will tell me, it will yell at me and tell me, hey, I was expecting you to hand it over some content because the type, the inferred type of content is a string, but you actually, why is a string? Because I'm converting a string to element in the Boolean, right? But it's actually, but you're not giving me that. You're giving me nothing. So what should I do, right? It's like, sometimes I want to pass prop, sometimes I don't. Well, I need to tell and fight, not fight, but actually talk with the type system and say, okay, this is not a string, it is an option, it can be a string or it cannot, right? So I need to come and explicitly say, you know what? I lied to you, it's not a string, right? It's an option string. And we should be fine, right? Right? No? We are not, because string to element receives a string, not an option string. And it will tell us, you know what? Like, I was expecting a string, and you threw me something that may be a string or may not. So you need to do something. So let's do something really quick for this function. Don't get bored, please don't fall asleep. It's like 1 second. Okay. So I will switch, and in functional programming language, what you do, you use less and less the ifs, and you start using a switch which pattern match, in this case, actually try to check the whatever you pass in to the switch and check the pattern. If it meets the pattern, it will give you some result. So I can say, okay, I will check, in this case, the content. And what should I check for? I will check the following. I have a type that is sum, and let's redefine content, right? So what this branch of the pattern match is actually doing is saying, okay, when content has some content, right? And this is, you can think about as a variable, it's a binding that has the actual content, in this case, hello Denver, right? I will do for this branch, and yeah, eventually people will. And when you do this, when there's nothing, right? And you just, I don't know, we're just doing the following, right? It's an empty string. We can agree that this is our contract, and we can come here and say, yeah, well, perfect, and hand it over now a perfect string, either something or an empty string. You should work. Oh, yeah, no, you don't like that. It's content, right? Why? What is it telling me? Yeah, perfect. It's telling me, that's perfect. You told me you have a maybe string, maybe it's the Haskell way of saying this, an option string, and you handled this very well, great Chertok, you did all this very great, but you're still passing here a string, right? So it's complaining, and it's right, because I need to say, yeah, you know, this is some string. And hopefully this works. So this is, it's a little bit verbose when you start doing it, but there are some tools that really ease this out. And the cool thing about this is that you already know how to pattern match something in Reason, how the type system does infer and work. I probably don't need this anymore, right? I can rely on the type system to help me. But ideally, I can pass none here, or actually not pass. There is another idiom for actually not passing the prop, but you get the picture. Let's see if this is working. Give me my mouse. Cha-cha-cha. Well, this is, I guess. Yeah, I can do that. No, please don't upload this crappy example. But let's go back where. Oh yeah, should be here. Perfect. Okay, we have a framework library. Let's see some other examples. So I need to say things, like it's a web application. No, do you listen? I have a pretty strong voice.
Should I use it? Oh, sorry. Okay, you need to style things out, right? So you need to style, I use class name and React Bootstrap to actually style all this, but I will show you can do the same with this solution. So you can actually do the following, right? Let's see here. You can actually require a CSS file. It doesn't matter how I bootstrap this application, but the cool thing is you have a directive to tell, in this case, BattleScript, hey, this is a raw JavaScript thing I'm writing. You just don't need to compile this in any way. Just remove these special characters and just require this index CSS. And I have like some rules there. And you can check here that I just went ahead and added here. Added some class names, right? And now class names, I can come here and say, it doesn't matter, again, what this class name is and the join, but I'm joining a boolean string, which will end up being one of the class names. And then I'm calling this method, which is style, right? I have this boolean, which is slightly different. I can have the style info, success, and danger. This is, again, a ReasonML types. And by saying this, I can say, okay, perfect, I will join boolean string with the class name, which is the style you call me, right? So the style is coming here. So, and it has a default parameter. So it's, if you don't pass anything, it's info. But having this, I can pattern match this style and say, okay, if it is info, I will do boolean info. If it is success, boolean success, and all that. So that's kind of enough what we could do, and you can have styling the same way you can style things in React. Yeah, I don't think you see it, but one is blue, the other is green, and the other is red. And the other thing I was telling about, you can actually have optional parameters here, like disable. Disable, I didn't pass disable here, but I did pass it here, and didn't pass it here. That's why, because ReasonReact has a special leader for it, which is if you pass like a question mark, you may either pass it or not. It's still being an option bool in this case, and to actually pass it to the boolean, I need to say, okay, I'm going to pass the disable thing that was passed as a prop to the isDisable function, and I will switch and do similar to what I did. If it is disabled, if it is some disabled, I will just put whatever is there. Otherwise, it's enabled, so it's false. And then this is a little bit cumbersome. You still need to convert this Boolean type from Reason to actual JavaScript Boolean thing. And this is because the ReasonReact wrapper accepts like this JS Boolean instead of like a Reason Boolean. That's because it's a wrapper. But anyway, you can do styling, and I will tell you a little bit more about styling. I'm going with the time.
Let's wrap up.
Let's wrap it. Okay. You can do CSS in JavaScript. I won't show you this, but it's doable. You can have this type of thing. So small function that actually gets you border color or whatever. And the good thing is like it's typed CSS instead of if you use Glamour or whatever other tool you use to style your components with JavaScript. Those are great, but actually how many types? So I'm saying here is an hexadecimal of this string. So if I pass something different, it will fail. Or the font size, I can change it instead of this. I can do rem. No, it doesn't exist. And rems, I think, are floats, right? That should be. So you can type check your CSS rules, which is kind of cool, and I don't have any much time, but you can do a lot of things. Don't believe me, I have a repo for that. You have a router. ReasonReact has a built-in router. You will need to find it out yourself. And a way to store state, you can store state on your component. There are not only stateless, but also stateful components, a little bit better than the stateful components React gives you. and a way to do async, which is currently a little bit cumbersome, but it's getting there. I'm working on a Redux API middleware wrapper, not wrapper, but actually a specific component for Reason. So if you want to help, I really don't help you have because I'm not that smart. And a form library you can do, I use heavily Redux form, and if you don't use it, please use it. It's a great library. And there is a similar one into Reason. So there are a couple of things, and hopefully I'm finishing. Hopefully I just made you see the forest instead of a single tree, instead of a very complex language that it's a functional programming language, just seeing the whole ecosystem that it has and the capabilities you have to actually create bindings and reuse the code you have, but bring it back to Reason and have it checked. Sorry. So I think I have nothing else to do. Thank you.
You went for an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really sorry.
But thank you. No, I think I definitely can see the forest from the trees, or the forest from the trees, whatever it is. I can see the forest now in Reason, and I see why some people have been telling me to check it out. So, because I usually don't like the explicitness of TypeScript and Flow, and I like the type inference and how that works, and the ability to specify what we need. So that's really cool. Thank you very much, Chertok.
Thank you.
Thank you all again for coming. You guys, you were amazing. And please pick up wherever you're sitting, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
First, it took an hour. You should have told me, hey.